I just bought a Subaru Crosstrek. Just kidding, this is a loaner from Subaru. I'm Alanis King with Motor One, and this is the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Sport. Let's drive it. Before we drive the Crosstrek, you know we have to talk about it. The Crosstrek feels like an eternal part of our lives, but it's actually relatively young. It debuted in 2013 as the XV Crosstrek, with XV standing for crossover. But these days, crossovers are so common that we don't need that XV anymore. The original XV Crosstrek was an outdoorsy looking thing, like it still is today, with 148 horsepower and a 5-speed manual transmission as standard. A continuously variable transmission was optional, and the car started at $22,000. The second generation Crosstrek arrived for 2018, and in my opinion, it actually got more anonymous with this redesign. The car came with a 6-speed manual transmission as standard, and long gone was the XV monitor, because XVs were just a normal thing by then. Then came the third generation Crosstrek in 2024, which is the car we have right here. When the new one debuted, Subaru said the Crosstrek debuted 11 years ago and quickly became the fastest selling vehicle in history for Subaru of America, with more than 1 million units sold. In 2022, the Crosstrek was the top performer by volume, achieving its best year ever. When the third generation Crosstrek debuted, gone was the manual transmission, and in its place was a standard CVT. You could also option a giant tablet as your center screen, and when the car was announced, Subaru said it cost the same as the outgoing Crosstrek at $24,995. It was also only a few thousand more than the original Crosstrek from 2013. The Crosstrek is currently the cheapest of Subaru's 2024 and 2025 SUV options, and it starts at $25,000 before destination fees. It also has standard all-wheel drive, and this may just be my inflation brain talking, but I feel like a crossover with all-wheel drive in 2024 for $25,000 is not that bad. This Crosstrek has a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder boxer engine that makes 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. That is simultaneously not a lot of power and way more power than the base Crosstrek makes, which is 152. So I hope you are not in a hurry. That power goes through a continuously variable transmission to all 4 wheels with Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Most of the time when you see a 4-cylinder engine, you have what's called an inline arrangement. That means the cylinders are in a line and they punch mostly vertical, like this. A boxer arrangement means those cylinders punch horizontally, like a boxer. And boxer engines are known for having some performance benefits, but they're also known for being a little tricky in some ways. For example, if you're gonna work on the spark plugs in this engine, they are way harder to get to than they are in an inline 4-cylinder engine. But I'm gonna make you feel a little better. If you're gonna change your oil, the filter's right here instead of underneath, which means you're not dripping oil on yourself. The power from the Crosstrek's boxer engine goes through a continuously variable transmission, and for most people, a CVT works just like an automatic. You pop this car in drive and you drive without the need to shift or do anything yourself. But in reality, there are a lot of differences. An automatic has gears. It may have 6, it may have 8, it may have 10, or any other number of those, and you shift through those gears, or the car does it for you. In a CVT, you have a bunch of different gear ratios that the car just infinitely goes through, and that's because you usually have a pulley system connected by a steel belt, and those are sometimes known to prematurely fail. Automakers use CVTs because they say they're smoother and more efficient, but car enthusiasts kind of complain about CVTs because instead of revving up and then shifting into the next gear, you kind of just casually go, and it's a little more boring. This Crosstrek Sport starts at $29,195, and it only has 2 options. The first one is called Option Package 22, I know it's a really fancy name. It costs $2,000 and it gets you blind spot detection, a rear cross traffic alert system, a power moonroof, and a 10-way power driver's seat with 2-way lumbar support. The other option is all-weather floor liners for $141. That plus a $1,345 destination fee brings the total price of this car to $32,601. It's time to drive the Subaru Crosstrek Sport. And before we talk about the driving experience, I want to go over some of the interior details. And the first thing anyone says to me when they see a photo of the inside of this car is, holy cow, look at that giant iPad on the dashboard. But when you put Apple CarPlay on it, it honestly looks fine. So I don't really care about the iPad. The first thing that I see when I get in this car is the piano black. It's disgusting. It's a terrible thing to put in a car. But even worse than that, there's some piano black that scratches so badly. And I don't know who was in this car before me, but I got in here and the piano black that surrounds the shifter in this car is the most scratched piano black I have ever seen in my life. This car has 3,451 miles on it. And it looks like someone took a key and just carved a pattern into this piano black. So we talked about how one of the accents on the Crosstrek Sport trim is that it has yellow all over the outside. It also has yellow on the inside. So I have yellow stitching on my steering wheel. I have yellow accents on the seats. The gauges are outlined in yellow. It's just this nice continuation of the outside of the car inside of it. But I will say that these seats are cloth. And cloth seats are fine. But I feel like usually when I sit in a cloth seat, especially a modern one, it's just more tightly woven. The cloth on this seat in particular is kind of like sitting on the cloth seat equivalent of a wicker basket. The overall room in this car is very good. I have plenty of room in the front seat, and in the rear seat, I actually have about 5 inches of legroom. I'm 5'8.5". It's actually pretty roomy back there, I'm not gonna lie. Two things I don't love comfort-wise, one is in the front, one is in the back. In the front seat, the seat heaters are this little flip switch. It looks really old, and you can have them set as high or low. I love seat heaters. It's August in Texas, so it currently says that the outside temperature is 100 degrees in this car, but I had the seat heaters on earlier because I love seat heaters. And the seat heaters were very spotty to me. They were going in and out. It was kind of like a bad electronic heating pad, just like heat, 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 take it all away. Heat, 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 take it all away. And I don't like that. On the other side of that, the rear seat doesn't have vents in the middle. So if you're in the rear seat and it's really hot or really cold outside, you're going to be really hot or really cold. You are not going to feel that air from the front seat unless the front seat passengers are blasting it. So we do need a little help with climate controls in here. But, you know, as far as room goes, we've got that comfort aspect. Now let's talk about the actual driving feel of this car, starting with an acceleration from not zero. This is 14 miles per hour. Oh. Okay, I said oh because I hit the pedal and there was a long break before the car did anything, and I actually wasn't expecting that. So I pressed the pedal down, it hit the floor, and then it was like, 1 Mississippi, now we're going, which was very, very odd. So if you want to merge on the highway, make sure you hit the gas pedal early on this one. There's enough power in this car. It's not fast, but it's not just painfully slow. You know, some cars you're in and you're like, oh, this is painfully slow. This is just slow. I think one thing that is really good about this car is that when I drive it around the neighborhood or when I drive it just in the city on commutes and stuff like that, it feels very smooth and comfortable. And that's pretty good for a $32,000 crossover, you know? It feels nice, it just gets up to speed. Everything is just very laid back, you know? The pedal response is very laid back. The steering is very laid back. It's a comfortable car, but it's not just going to fuel all of your excitement, right? This car does have paddle shifters despite having a CVT. You can do fake shifting in this car. And that goes against my belief system, so I'm not going to do it. But if you need more excitement in this car, it is available. There are paddles right here. I'm merging onto the highway right now, so I'm about to be going 70 miles per hour. And the wind noise is not terrible in this car. There's a bit of road noise, but it's not super intrusive. It's just moderately intrusive. So if you had the radio on, you would be fine. But it is definitely there, and you can hear quite a bit of it. Wind noise is honestly fine. Now, one thing I noticed earlier while I was driving this car was that I put on lane assist and cruise control. For some reason, this lane keep system just loves to be on the left side of the lane. And I really don't understand it. Because for me, it's kind of stressful because it'll drift toward this side of the lane. And the lanes are very clearly marked right here. I will feel like I'm kind of drifting this way. And I'm like, ooh, 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 ooh. Do I need to catch it? Do I need to catch it? And I don't. It's fine. It's still lane assisting. But it gives you that moment of like, oh, I'm a little nervous about this. Otherwise, if you can get used to just being on the left of the lane, it works fine. Overall, I think the Subaru Crosstrek is a good value buy, and it's also something that just kind of makes you blend in with everybody else, and people like that. And I think at $32,000, this is really not bad. New cars are super expensive these days, and to have a car that starts at $25,000 and it comes with standard all-wheel drive and it's a crossover is pretty good because crossovers are what Americans buy right now. You can get away with upcharging people for them. But the Crosstrek hasn't really gone into that realm of just upcharging people to the moon. The original Crosstrek, when it debuted in 2013, was a $22,000 car. These days, it's a $25,000 car base, and that's pretty cool. You know, 10 years, 11 years, $3,000 is not that bad. There is room for Subaru to increase this price, but instead, it's still that lower end value buy, which is awesome, even if there are a few little nitpicks about it. The Subaru Crosstrek Sport isn't going to stun everyone around you. It's not going to get the attention of all the other drivers on the road because honestly, probably a lot of them are driving Crosstreks too. The reality is the Crosstrek just works for a lot of people. And if you're in the market for one, it'll probably work just fine for you too. Plus, I hear all of those people would have bought a Lambo, but they're not quite there yet. If you want to hear more about any cars, the Crosstrek, Lambos, or anything of the sort, check out Motor1.com, and we'll see you back here next time.